Hello and welcome everybody to our WorkPoint 365 version 3.11 release webinar. We are happy to see you all here and hope you will enjoy the webinar. My name is Florian Neuhold and I will guide you through this webinar today. Today the topic will be presented by Simone Fontaine, and also we have other presenter, it's Møker. So if you have any questions, do not hesitate to put them into the Q&A. I promise you I will have definitely an eye on this, and we prepared also a few minutes after the presentation for answering your questions. So I think it's time to enjoy the webinar and have fun. So Simone, please.
Thank you very much. Let me just share my screen right here and I'll take you through the slides of today. First of all, I want to say thank you to everyone who has decided to take off a little time and attend this webinar here today. I have the pleasure of taking you through some very new and exciting functions that we are launching for our WorkPoint 365 product later this week. On Thursday, we will have an update coming out, and these new functions that I'm going to show you will be part of that big update. So first, to set the setting a little bit, this webinar is intended for all of you who are perhaps just interested in knowing a little bit more about WorkPoint, about the feature range that we have in our WorkPoint 365 product, what it offers, and how we are sort of expanding our product continuously. Of course, this webinar is also for all of you who already know WorkPoint 365. Perhaps you work in it as a daily user or a frequent user and are just very curious to hear about a little bit about what's coming out in the future. Don't worry, we'll keep this webinar on a non-technical level, so the focus will be on all of these new features and functions, what they can offer you as an organization and as a user. So I won't dive into any too technical details or any configuration or anything like that. We are keeping this on a non-technical level. So yeah, first of all, this is me. I'm the commercial product manager here with WorkPoint, and I will also today be joined by my colleague Møker, who's our technical writer, and he will take you through a bit of a demonstration later on. Let's take a quick look at what's the agenda for the webinar that is coming up. We are launching a completely new product. I could just start out by saying that is called the WorkPoint App Builder for Microsoft Teams. And we believe that this will change completely how you can bridge your WorkPoint 365 solution with Microsoft Teams that we have all started to spend so much of our workdays in. We also have some exciting news coming up on WorkPoint 365 in the browser interface, where we are giving a very fresh and new look to a central element that, for those of you who are familiar with WorkPoint 365 solutions, you will know it's called our top panel. And lastly, this might sound a little technical on a headline basis, but don't worry, I'll guide you through it. We are extending one of our cornerstone functions in WorkPoint with some new options that will allow you to have much more distinction between different elements. Stay tuned for some more details later on regarding that. And just before jumping into the first topic of today, I just want to add a few words about our release strategy here with WorkPoint for WorkPoint 365. We are releasing updates on a monthly basis because WorkPoint 365 is growing on a continuous basis and we are always developing and improving on our product. So updates are frequent to ensure that you get new functions at a sort of on a regular level, but also to ensure that the product stays stable. WorkPoint 365 is a pure cloud solution. So when we release to our production environment, our new features or improvements are available to you at an instant when as a customer. And on the same tangent, all customers, they can also benefit once a new feature is released. So it's not about that we are sort of rose-budding across various products. We are expanding the core product that we have. And all your updates are just a click away. So as a WorkPoint customer, you will have a partner who has helped you build and design and implement your WorkPoint solution, and in dialogue with your partner, find out how you need what requirements that you have in terms of updates. If you want them when they come in and land freshly, or if you have a test environment that you want to test out things in advance or so forth. Take that dialogue with your WorkPoint partner. Of course, we can also offer some guidance for new and interested potential customers that might be joining in today. So don't worry about that. Okay, let's head in and get started. The first thing I want to present to you is this completely new product that I mentioned, and it is called the WorkPoint App Builder for Microsoft Teams. Now, this product is being launched on Thursday, and essentially it's an app for Teams that lets you build more apps. And you can build apps for your departments, for your different project teams or different work teams that you might have in your organization. And these apps can then be installed into Microsoft Teams, and then all of a sudden your users will have complete access to their WorkPoint solution directly from Microsoft Teams. We can really see that the sort of the app market in Teams, in Microsoft Teams, is growing, and that's why we have decided to sort of jump into this area. Now, building apps, it might sound a little bit like something that requires a lot of technical skill and knowledge, but don't worry, we have made our WorkPoint App Builder intuitive. It's easy to use, and all you need for building apps is the link to your WorkPoint 365 solution, and then you're ready to go. So to give a little bit about some inspiration on what kind of apps you could build, it could be that you want to build an app for each of your organization's departments. You might want to have an app for your HR department and your legal department and your projects department. And even though all of these departments might be working essentially in the same WorkPoint solution, you can tailor different apps to each of these. And adjust them to what the department needs. You can also, of course, build an app for your entire organization if that's how you work best, or find that that's the need that you have. It could also be that you perhaps even find it useful to have an app dedicated to a large project that you have multiple teams working on, or that you have multiple people working on. The choice is really yours here, and only your own imagination is the limit. To give you a little bit of a look as to how our WorkPoint App Builder functions and how an app that you have built could look like, we have made a short video to introduce this. And Florian, could I ask you to play the video? I think you need to restart it.
Yeah. It's not really working. I'm sorry for this, but we tried once again.
It's the beauty of doing live demos and live webinars, is that it's very authentic.
So, here we are.
With WorkPoint App Builder, you can build custom WorkPoint apps. These apps can then be shared with your organization as a new app directly in Teams. Use tabs to show lists of cases, customers and documents, or display individual project sites. change project stages, generate new documents, or create new cases directly from Teams. You decide how your WorkPoint app should look and function. And in addition, WorkPoint apps allow you to run custom commands from almost anywhere possible in the Microsoft Teams interface. From the chat, users can search for projects or other items and send them along to a colleague. Using configurable info cards, you can execute actions directly from the Teams chat. From the command bar, you can search your WorkPoint solution or open various WorkPoint wizards to create new elements. With WorkPoint App Builder, you can build your very own app, which meets all of your daily business needs and puts your WorkPoint solution right at your fingertips.
Thank you so much, Florian. I'll just steal the screen back once again. Great. So hopefully that gave a little bit of inspiration as to what the WorkPoint App Builder for Microsoft Teams can do. I'll just pick out a few highlights that I want to share with you. So essentially, the WorkPoint App Builder is used to build and manage apps directly from Teams. So it's an app that you, it could be that you together with your WorkPoint partner or with sort of what you would call a super user within your department or within your organization, sit down and find out, okay, I want to have apps for my HR department or for my my contract department. How should they look like? You download the WorkPoint App Builder into Teams and you just start building. So this is also the place where you go and manage the apps that you build as well. Wait, sorry, jumping a little fast ahead here. And you can tailor your apps to match the needs that you have, not just in terms of the functions that you want the app to have, but also when it comes to naming and to icons and branding that you want to have applied. So as you can see from this screenshot of the user interface, it's fairly straightforward and with some good guiding text. There's no mystery to it. As an example of how a WorkPoint app could look like, here we could have built an app for our projects department, and in this case want to have shown all our project portfolio in one list. And when you build apps, you also add these little tabs, as Anders mentioned in the video, where you could design, okay, I want to have a list of my active projects or everything that's coming up, or perhaps I just want the projects of a certain size. So you can really tailor what you want to have shown. And of course, you can also access your projects from a list, for example, in this case, and go directly to the site or what you could call the workspace of that project. And this is where you can access any documents that might be filed on the project and view any information, risks, any tasks that might have been created and be associated with that project. So really, you have full access to your WorkPoint solution directly from Teams. And of course, you can also design your app to let users create new elements, new projects, in this case via forms or wizards, and you can run these actions directly in Teams. So your user and you as a user don't really have to leave Teams to work with WorkPoint. And then, of course, the video also highlighted that we have a lot of new functions coming in that are embedded very closely into the whole chat experience. And you can, as a user, now work in WorkPoint directly from the chat. And we have done this because we believe that your WorkPoint solution, it should always be close at hand and it should be easy to get access to. And today we can see that so much of the interaction between people and colleagues have moved away from being email-based to be more chat-based. And we believe that this will only become stronger in the future. So by giving users access to their WorkPoint solution directly from the chat, it also allows users to much quicker perform actions and much more naturally interact with WorkPoint. And we believe that that's a core part of good adoption and good sort of feel like you're working naturally with your WorkPoint solution. And we're not just stopping there. Will continue to expand on that sort of mentality in the future. And you'll see more and more functions that are associated with Teams chat coming up. And just like in Outlook, through one of our core product, WorkPoint Express, we offer tools for saving important emails onto projects or onto your clients. We also offer or are working on making it possible to save chat messages and chat threads directly from your Teams chat into WorkPoint. The idea behind that is that today so many decisions might be just captured in a brief meeting chat, where someone approves something or say, yeah, you know, that sounds good, you can go and start the project. You want to have that dialogue documented. It could also be that there have been some chat exchange between you and an external client that you want to have saved the whole sort of thread of, okay, what was the dialogue, what did we agree to, and so forth. So you can save perhaps the entire chat thread for later auditing or something like that. And of course, you will also need to be able to save the files that other people send to you in Teams chat and save them into your WorkPoint solution. So this is something that we are still working on, but I have brought just a little still in development example of how this will function and how it might look like. But be mindful that this is not coming up just yet, but this is just an example of how it might end up looking like. But in this case, we see that I have some dialogue here with Lone, and one of the messages that she has sent, I want to save that message, and I'll be able to just simply and naturally click on the message and select to save it to WorkPoint. So this is just a little teaser of what's coming up, but hopefully together with the Teams app builder, you can really see, or the WorkPoint app builder, you can really see that our strategy towards Teams is to bring WorkPoint more and more into Teams and make it a part of Teams. It shouldn't be a separated product. It should really feel like it's an extension of your existing Teams platform. Now, so while we have given you more and more options, and we're still in the future, we'll be giving you more options for Teams. We are also working on at the same time on some interesting things for WorkPoint 365, of course. And one of the things that we want to dive into now is to a new sort of element as to how it will look like when you access your WorkPoint solution in the browser, and that's on our top panel, because we are launching a completely new top panel for WorkPoint 365. So for those of you who are attending today, who are familiar with WorkPoint and how WorkPoint looks, once you go to a project or a client side or a workspace, you hopefully or likely will have seen our current top panel in your solution. And for everyone to just be on the same page, we use our top panel to highlight information about elements such as projects or cases. And the information that we show up here, it could be who is the responsible for this project that I'm viewing right now, and what's the budget for it, for example. All the information that is sitting in the top panel is determined by you as a customer. What do you need to have captured? So it could also be if you have, for example, a client that you want to have some information on. That could be who is the key account manager for this client, what industry are they working in, and so forth. And with our new top panel, we are giving all customers a completely new option for how to have this information displayed. And we are moving more towards a sort of a card-based presentation mode, where you can configure to an extremely wide extent exactly how you want your information displayed, and what information that you feel is necessary to have highlighted and have shown. And here on the slide right here, we have one example where you see this information card that tells some information about the project that's called development of new pump. You can see when did it start, what's the budget for it, who is the project manager, and who is the project assistant. It could be that you perhaps think, okay, this is all right, that I have this kind of a little bit more static information displayed, but I would actually like maybe to utilize this space a little bit differently. And for that, we offer the option of using these sort of information cards with buttons on it that you can have designed for your WorkPoint solution. And you can decide completely how these should look like and what kind of buttons that you might want to have on them. It could be that you have some very frequent actions that you're always doing. For example, edit is one, but it could also be to have documents created based on a document template that you have sitting in your WorkPoint solution, or it could be to create a new task for the project. That is really up to you to decide what you need. And of course, this is something that you, as a WorkPoint customer, work together with your partner on defining. Okay, how could these information cards look like? And lastly, we're also introducing a new design for how we illustrate status and progress. It could be that you have a case, and in your that you are, when you're working on cases in your organization, you're always following a standard process, a series of steps that you're always moving through. Or it could also be that if you're in a more project-oriented organization, that you have a progress model or project model or stage model, or sort of whatever name that you might have for it, that you want to have illustrated on your project or your case. And it could be handy to have it shown along with the information, such as when did you move into this step or part or section of your process, and what's the next step coming up. And also we have the opportunity to define what we call them constraints, that you can see as in this screenshot. These could be stage gates if you're in a very project management oriented context, or you could almost just think of them as check marks as to, okay, I need to have these things completed before moving on in my process. And that whole functionality can be displayed and information-wise in this card that we have right here. So I will hand now the word over to my colleague Anders, whose voice will be a little familiar to you already now, who will give a short demo as to how these the new top panel that we have, how that actually looks like and functions in a real setting. So Anders, the word is yours.
Yes, thank you. Let me just share my screen here. Could you let me know if you can see it? Great. So, hello everybody. For those of you who have seen some WorkPoint solutions before, you can probably see that at least one thing has changed here. And as Simone mentioned, it's of course the top panel. We now have the option to colorize it as we please. So in this case, I have selected a kind of light blue color here. Obviously now we're on the home page of this solution, and not much has changed in relating to the contents. But if we go further into a case site in this instance here, you can see that where we before had the entity details panel here showing the different kinds of metadata for this case, and the journal web part as well here, showing the latest content that has been edited, for example. And lastly, the stage panel down here. We now instead have a display of the case name. And if we want to access the metadata, for example, for this case, we can click the breadcrumb item up here saying the name of the case, and we will have this displayed, the metadata that Simone showed in the screenshot in her presentation before. And the journal tab here showing what would have been shown in the old journal web part. So these elements are now hidden behind one click up in the top panel. This presentation tab can utilize all kinds of different presentation settings that you might have. So as Simone said, we could, instead of having displaying simply a list of metadata, we can also show, for example, a data card using a different setup, such as an adaptive card, for example, like we're showing here. So here we also have some metadata, but in this case, we also have the ability to put buttons here so we can edit the metadata for the project in this case, change the stage, or have other functionality hidden in the data card itself. So this offers great customizability for users, and it can even be used to brand, for example, also your company colors and stuff like that. So it offers great opportunity here. Also, as Simone mentioned, we also have the ability to show the stage information up here. So in this instance, I have the stage information about my stage model. I have the ability to select a new stage and go to that stage and view all of my other stage information here. So one of the reasons that we implemented this, as Simone said earlier, is that this eliminates some of the issues that users might have had with page jumping. So a lot of users would have noticed that when the page is loading, some of the elements might have jumped around, and this introduced the issue that sometimes you would accidentally click the wrong element in, for example, the menu, the side menu. This issue has been completely eliminated by this feature. So that is obviously a good thing, usability-wise. So I will hand it back to Simone.
Thank you so much, Anders, for taking us through that. I'll steal the screen back once again. So yeah, thank you for sharing that demo with us, and also to highlight the very nice sort of buy effect of the new top panel option. And that is, of course, as you mentioned, that before, due to some, I won't dive into the details, but some technicalities in terms of how SharePoint loads elements, users could experience a bit of flickering or page jumping effect, and that has been eliminated as Anders just showed. So a note that I want to give in relation to this is that part of our release process that I mentioned earlier on is that we make an early release candidate available for our partners. And we use this release candidate to gather input from our partners on how our product and new features, such as the new top panel, works once they are applied to the real world. And we do this to be able to offer all of you, our customers, solid and well-functioning products. And we did this also with our top panel, and using that feedback, we are just doing some small last-minute adjustments to the new top panel before letting it completely loose for all customer solutions in production. So, however, we know that large changes to user interfaces is not something that should just be forced out. So we have decided that we are making the new top panel available in what we call a preview mode for all of our customers, so that you can test it out together with your WorkPoint partner if you have, for example, a test solution or a test setup in your organization. And this way that you can work together with your partner on how these new options that we have showed you can be tailored to meet and your organization and how they can benefit you. And you still have due time for change management with your organization. So this means that on Thursday in the afternoon, we will release this along with the rest of our update in a preview version. This will be available to our customers, but we don't intend that you use this in production environment. It's to simply give you a chance to test it out. And the official sort of version of the new WorkPoint top panel is scheduled for release in September. Now, just a last bit of note on this thing is that don't worry that if you have a WorkPoint solution already, that once you sign in on Friday, it won't look completely different. This is something that you, together with your WorkPoint partner, will have to sort of get enabled on your solution. We are not forcing any changes out to your user interface. So, if you have any guiding or manuals or materials that you want to have updated as part of your change management process, you can do that in the time that matches you and your needs. So this is available, but it's an option. We're not forcing it out to you. Now, a word of notice here: stay tuned and don't get scared that this, for some of you, might sound much more technical than what you expected of today's webinar, because I want to talk you through a new feature, or a feature and an extension to a new to a feature that might sound really techy, but it does have tremendous impact on how your WorkPoint solution can offer some new abilities for you. So it's called, on a sort of a very technical level, it's called multiple master sites on the same module. And first of all, I just want to start out with a few words about the whole master site concept that we here in WorkPoint have. WorkPoint likes to put information in what we call modules, and think of modules as boxes, really advanced and smart boxes. You could also use maybe the analogy to a file cabinet. These boxes, or our WorkPoint modules, you can be created based on the needs that you as an organization have. Perhaps you need a box or a module for each of your departments. It could also be for your general work areas. And you can set up rules for each box, each module, as to who should be allowed access to it, who should be allowed to add information, or who should be allowed to edit information. And each of our boxes or our modules then contain all the elements that you have associated with it. So for example, if you have a projects module, it can contain all of your projects. And for and if you have a departments box, then it can contain areas for each of your departments. And for each, let's go with the project analogy here. For each of your projects, you can create what we call a site, or, well, essentially a workspace. This is where all the information about the project is stored. And this is also where you add new documents, where you create contacts related to the project, tasks that are on the project, etc. And essentially our master site is, or the master site is defined per module, per box, and that decides or functions essentially as a template for how your workspace, your site, should look like. So that was the first part of the technical explanation. I hope that you're still sort of staying with us here. The master site, or the template, is then used to design how the elements in that module should look like. What kind of standard information should always be captured. So if we go back to the example of, you have a projects module with projects in it, what kind of standard tasks should there be for each project? So once you create a new project, it would automatically have a set of tasks associated with it. It could also be that you need to always move through some risk management process and have risks worked through for your projects. It could also be that if we don't have a project module, you have a customer module where you have each of your customers or your clients created in. You have some information that you want to have captured on that. So the master site is a template for what information and should I always have captured about this element, and which standard parts should also be created, like tasks, for example. Now, as time moves on, you may have to make changes to your template, to your master site. It could be that you discover that you need a different set of standard tasks for your projects because you're developing as an organization, or that you are having another project model that you are working through. It could also be that you find out that you need other additional mandatory information about this project. And sometimes you perhaps only want to consider these changes to your template, to your master site for future elements. It could be that if you're switching to a new ID numbering convention, for example, that this should only be applied to future new projects, so as to not to change any existing numbering convention that you have. But it could also be that you need these changes to your template, to your master site, to be applied for all existing or even all all active projects. So, and to do this, WorkPoint have created what we call our master site synchronization. This sort of corner feature makes it possible to roll out these changes in the master site to all the elements below it. So roll out changes in the template to all the elements created using that template. So you synchronize it out, and that's why we have this naming of it. And before you start to feel lost, I just want to highlight this is not something an end user will be managing. This is something that you as an organization is working together with your WorkPoint implementation partner on in the process of you defining, okay, we need the new numbering convention, or we need new standard tasks and so forth. So the master site is a template for how elements in a module looks like. And once you make changes to your master site, to your template, you can decide how to roll out or synchronize these out to elements. Now, jumping on to the new part based on with all of this background information, because we know that even though you might have different modules for your different elements, there might be some differences in what basic information that you need to have. It could be that you need different standard tasks based on whether your project is an internal project or an external project. Or it could also be that for projects of a certain budget size, you need to carry out risk management, while if they are below a budget threshold, that's not needed. You can have different sort of information on that project that determines your needs and sort of your process of working on such a project. And we have extended our master site synchronization, the template concept and the template rollout concept, so that now you can define which part of your master site, your template, that should be applied to your projects or your elements, your cases, whatever elements that you have in your module. So let's take a real example of how this could look like and what this actually means once it's applied. An example here could be that we have a project with a large budget, as we just spoke of before. And here we have decided that we want to have all our projects, regardless of their budget size, in the same project module. But this project has a large budget. And as such, we have a convention internally that we must carry out risk management. And as you can see here on the screenshot, we have a set of risks that are identified on the project. Now, this could then be an example of a smaller project with the same organization, but where the budget is below the threshold. And in this case, the organization have decided that it's only necessary to keep documents and emails about the project. So even though these two projects are residing within the same project module, the same project work area, the sites or their workspaces look different. So here we have a little bit more of a simplistic view, while our larger budget, and just switching back to here, has more information to it. Their information is displayed a little bit differently. We can see out in the site that we also can create events and notes, risks and tasks, and various information on and elements on it, or items on it, while the smaller budget or the smaller budget project have a little bit of a different look. So in practice, it's like that you have different templates for different project types, but you don't have to keep or have your projects split out into different modules. You can keep a common overview and have them all under the same structure and use the same access control while still differing on what information that is necessary. So hopefully this made it a little bit of clearing that despite a technical start, this actually can offer a lot of value to you as a WorkPoint customer in terms of how you can differentiate on your elements, or elements in this term, meaning projects or cases or clients that you have in a module. So just a brief summary of what we have covered in this webinar as we are nearing end, and don't worry, we do have some time for some questions, is that we mentioned our WorkPoint app builder, where that allows you to build and manage apps directly in Teams, and you can then bring your whole WorkPoint solution into Teams, Microsoft Teams, as an app. We also covered and had a little bit of a look at the new top panel that's coming to WorkPoint 365. It's getting a new look, and you can add these action buttons on your information cards to have shown, and you also have the option of a new way of having progress being displayed. And lastly, we talked somewhat techy, but hopefully you got some value out of it. We talked about how you can have almost different master sites or different templates for the elements that you have in the same module. So with all that said, Florian, do we have any questions for today's webinar?
It's unbelievable. Every time you make a presentation, we have no questions because the presentations are totally perfect.
Well, I hope it's not because I lost everyone once going into the master site synchronization.
No, I don't think so. We in this moment we have no questions. So yeah.
Well, I take that as a good sign. Should any of you have any questions coming up after the webinar or something, don't get a hold of us. We will be more than happy to go over any questions that you might have, or any asks about these things that we have covered. If you're here as someone who is new to WorkPoint and haven't really worked or is curious to learn more about us, get in touch with us and we'll help you on your WorkPoint journey. If you're here as an existing customer, just listening into what these new cool features can do for you, and you think, this sounds exciting, then by all means get in touch with your WorkPoint implementation partner and have a discussion about how these new features can be made available in your WorkPoint solution and what they can do for you. And with that said, I just want to point you towards our various channels that we have, our website, Yammer, etc. And lastly, I want to say a big thank you for joining in on this webinar here today. I hope this has brought you some value and some good insights into how we are continuously expanding WorkPoint 365.
Simone, in this moment, I got a question for you.
Yes.
So I will read it for you. Maybe you can answer it directly. Is it possible to add metadata in the SharePoint site rather than in the new top bar?
So if I understand correctly, I hope I understand it. By all means, if I misunderstand your question, just ask again. I'll do my best. But yeah, you can always edit and add information about what about your element. For example, your project. You can do that when editing. If it has been decided that this piece of information, for example, in a project, it might be mandatory to have a project manager. Then once you create a project, you will have to put in a WorkPoint, or sorry, add in a person as the project manager. So you have to add in mandatory information. If this is about more of how you want to have this visualized, so as Anders showed, the top panel that we are now introducing is sort of hidden away, and if you want to have that information always displayed, if that's what you're asking more towards, then I can just lift the veil a little bit and let you know that we are actually working on making these the top panel, regardless of what part of the top panel that you want, have displayed as a what we call a web part. And for those of you who are technical, you'll know exactly what I talk about. And for those of you who are less technical, I can just share a quick example. Is that, for example, on this screenshot, this is a web part, so it's an element on a site or on the workspace. So coming in the very near future, but not on Thursday, sorry, is that you can have your top panel, for example, sitting always opened here in on a project site.
Thank you very much, Simone. So I will take the lead and take, of course, the opportunity to say thank you for all of the presenters as well as for the audience. I take the opportunity as well to remind you a little bit that we have also webinars in this month again. So we have the case and document management webinar on the 19th of August on Thursday, and also on the 26th of August on Thursday, we have the architecture, construction and engineering webinar, which are very interesting. And so if you are interested, visit our homepage or the partner portal or what else, and feel free to sign in, and we are happy to see you again maybe. Oh, so in this moment we get more more questions. So maybe we can also answering this one. Björn asked again, it was regarding to the visualization in web parts. So thanks, we are looking forward to that. Simone, I think that's a good review.
Yes, thank you, Björn.
So I think
I can see it seems like we have another question coming in, and that question is whether it requires the modern UI. So this will be, sorry for the non-technical people joining in, whether it requires that modern UI needs to be installed in the solution. And yes, it does. This modern UI, the new look on SharePoint, and that WorkPoint also has adapted, is a requirement for the new top panel.
Perfect. So I think that what is, once again, check out our homepage, and thank you very much and have a nice day. Bye.